They just opened the Disney Festival. We're talking about the National Film Theatre. Why now? A huge retrospective. Why did you decide to do that now?
Well, apparently the National Film Theatre had done retrospectives of every other studio in Hollywood except us. And
you thought it was your turn?
We thought it was our turn. They did too, so that's how it
Great.
worked.
Does it still give you a kind of a buzz to see the products of Walt Disney's and his co-workers' invention and inspiration?
You bet. And especially that film,
Fantasia. Yeah. Walt Disney himself thought that was probably possibly the best thing he'd done, didn't he?
I think he always did. I always did too. It's always been my favorite.
Yes, with the classical music. And lovely work. Now, back to Mickey Mouse, whom we enjoyed a moment or two ago. I'm not sure if Harry Stoneham did, but we enjoyed him. And he didn't start out as Mickey Mouse, did he?
Well, he was Mortimer very early in his life.
Mortimer Mouse.
That was Walt's name for him.
Yeah.
And this was about 1927 or 8 or something when he first was sort of being invented. Yeah. And Walt's wife, Lily, said, "That's the stupidest name for a mouse that I ever heard."
She was right.
And she was indeed, and he became Mickey.
It's just on these little things, because if he'd stuck at Mortimer, I don't know, would he have... He might never have caught on.
There's no way to tell if I'd be here, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, your dad, Roy Disney the First, he started it with Walt, his brother. What sort of a partnership did they have?
Well, it was really the kind of a partnership that probably only brothers could have, because they did have a fair number of fights.
Mutual distrust and hatred.
Mutual, a lot of things, and love being probably the single most important thing in that.
And a bit of sibling rivalry as well.
But the kind of fights they had, and I can remember a few because he would drive in the driveway at high rates of speed, and I knew it was time to not be there.
Yeah.
Only brothers could probably survive.
Of course, Walt was the man with the ideas, and your father was the man who had to raise the money to finance the ideas.
And dole it out carefully, too, because Walt would spend it as fast as you could dole it out.
Yeah, but I mean, he was in Hollywood, which was full of entrepreneurs, but even there, Walt was considered to be a bit of a wild man, wasn't he?
He was kind of a loner, really, as it related to the rest of Hollywood. Hollywood was a place of movie stars and things. We didn't have any movie stars in that sense. Mickey and Minnie and so on were, but ephemeral in a way.
Yeah, but cartoons are more expensive to make than anything. They're tremendously expensive.
Well, actually, by today's standards, Oliver and Company, which is opening here soon, is a lot less expensive than a Batman or a Crusaders of the Lost Ark.
I suppose
to
so.
make.
Yeah.
So
but in those days,
it's a matter of
in those days, I mean, he wanted to make the first full length. What was that?
Snow White.
Snow White. Now, the original budget for that was $250,000.
Something in that range.
And what did it end up costing?
About $1.5 million.
Yeah. And that must have been tough on your father, trying to raise the money.
There's a good story about that we were about 3/4 of the way through it and just simply out of money, period. They were not paying either themselves or the artists. And they got a banker by the name of Joe Rosenberg, who, God bless him, who came, and Walt said, "Joe, come in and look at this thing with me." Two of them went into a projection room, looked at the film, wouldn't even let my dad in. And they came out, and Joe said, called the bank and said, "Give him whatever he needs."
There's too few bankers like that
Yes.
around, isn't there? I think bankers like that are only in America. I mean,
when you have 3/4 of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in your hand, it kind of helps.
Well, of course it does, but I mean, you don't know about Walt Disney then or anything, what it's going to develop into, you see, so the banker took a chance. Had Walt that great ability that few people have to instill his enthusiasm for projects?
Very much so. He was, I think, first and foremost an actor. He acted out every film he ever made 100 times before it even got near film. I've always told this story about me and being homesick with the chicken pox when I was a little kid, and they were working on the story for Pinocchio. And Walt and his wife came over to have dinner with my folks, and Walt came up to say hi. And somehow he got it in his head he ought to tell me Pinocchio, and he told me 45-minute story, start to finish. And I was hypnotized. This was the most wonderful story ever told to anybody. Finally, having seen the picture then about a year later, it was a very disappointing movie to me.
He told a better story.
That's how good he was. Yeah.
Look, let's have a, since you mentioned Pinocchio, let's have a little clip of that marvelous cartoon.
Pinocchio? Why didn't you go to school?
School?
Well,
Go ahead, tell her.
I was going to school till I met somebody.
Met somebody?
Yeah, two big monsters with big green eyes. Why,
Monsters? Weren't you afraid?
no, ma'am, but they tied me in a big sack.
Don't say. And where was Sir Jiminy?
Oh, Jiminy,
Leave me out of this.
they put him in a little sack.
No.
Yes.
Walt Disney himself didn't have a big nose, did he?
Not especially. No bigger than mine.
No. But, I mean, he was a man who had to exaggerate just a little bit,
He
didn't he?
did. He was a wonderful storyteller.
Yeah. What makes you think, I mean, after all this time, a good cartoon, what are the essentials? What are the Disney requirements?
Well, they always say if you want to get into real estate, there's three important things you should know. They are location, location, and location.
Yeah.
In movies in general, but in animation really even more so, the three important things are story, story, and story. And I think that's where the real success came from. I think Walt understood very early in the game with animation that character and story were what drove the film, not cute gags or falling off cliffs or all the silly things. That story and character went together. And he understood that an animator was an actor, basically, at heart. He may go into a room by himself and look at himself in the mirror and do these strange things, and he doesn't want to show you anything till he's done with it. But he is indeed an actor.
As you said, Walt was himself. And incidentally, from the pictures I've seen, there is a great family resemblance.
Yes, I've been told that.
Yes, and I'm sure you're flattered by
I'm
does,
very pleased.
does the shadow of the great Walt Disney still hang over Disney Studios? In the sense, do you get an awful lot of people saying, when somebody comes up with an idea, say for Touchstone, your film company, which has been enormously successful. I think it's the biggest, most successful company in America
The last couple of years.
Yeah. Does anybody say, well, look, I don't think Walt would like this?
That was what happened to the company some years ago after Walt and my dad were gone. Walt died in '66 and my father in '71 after having built and opened Walt Disney World in Florida. And that was what began to happen. People said, oh, well, would Walt have done that? Or Walt wouldn't have done that, even worse. And they kind of boxed themselves into a corner that way. And yeah, they hung over the company for a long time. I think in 1984 we brought in Michael Eisner and Frank Wells and Jeffrey Katzenberg after a bit of a power struggle. And, you know, I very carefully said to all of them, look, don't worry about that, because that's the one thing you cannot do is battle with ghosts. I don't know what Walt would think right now of what we've done, but here we are. I suspect he, you know, in terms of, like we're going to open the Euro Disneyland in Paris in 1992, and I think he, if he ever came back, would look at us and say, well, what took you so long?
Because, of course, I suppose when he put Disney World or Disneyland forward first, everybody says it'll never work.
Including my father, yeah. Everybody thought he was slightly nuts.
Yes, and then Disney World, and as you say, it's expanding all over the world now. Roger Rabbit has been your latest success, and that's Touchstone Films. Would he have approved of Roger Rabbit? Because that was a...
He certainly would have approved of Roger.
His wife, you're not too sure about.
Jessica, maybe not.
Well, look, it's been a great pleasure talking to you. I'm sure the thing in the NFT will be a tremendous success.
I'm sure it will. It's the biggest one. They're running 47 feature films.
And thank goodness there's going to be a Disney World a little closer to home, so we can hop across and enjoy the delights of that.
Looking forward to that very much.
Roy, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Roy Disney.
Pleasure.